Here's the deal, guys. I got some tomato plants that a few weeks, what, 2 weeks ago, almost 3 weeks ago, I guess now, I was trimming my tomato plants over here, my two main rows of tomatoes. I was actually trimming off, not quite this big, but little branches and suckers. I was trimming them off. I was actually pruning the bottoms of them, and I saved some of them. I put some in, got dirty, actually just some rooting hormone. Just a white powder that you can dip the roots into. Very, very fine. But I dipped the roots in there and actually stuck them in one of my containers that I actually had some trees in. And I think I had about, oh geez, maybe like 6 plants or 6 branches that I put in there. And just like 2-3 weeks ago, they were not even any higher than the top of this edge right here, and they were all kind of wilted. I thought they were gonna die. It was kind of warm out here, and I just kind of kept them watered. And keep in mind, like I said, this is only like, they were barely taller than this edge right here. They were all kind of wilted down in here. They weren't even peeking up over the top of this. You know, nearly 3 weeks later, and not even, I've got, you know, foliage that is over 2 foot, you know, higher than the top of the container, and they're out of control. So today I'm actually going to plant these in another area over here. This is actually late fall, because right now we're into second week of July, and I've got tomatoes already here that are pretty good size, like softball size, and they're about ready to start turning red. And these will take a little bit longer, of course, but I want to get these in the ground and see what I can do with them, see how fast they grow in the Back to Eden garden. So it's gonna be like a little test, and hopefully we can get a few before we get a frost, you know, this fall, because we've got normally, being this big, as large as they are right now, it's going to set them a little bit back, you know, when I transplant them. But hopefully they still maybe take like 60 to 80 days, and it'll still fall within a time frame to where I probably won't get hit with frost or cold weather before I get a few ripened anyway. So we'll see what happens, but let's get started. Holy crap, it's big. So I'm actually going to plant, if you remember one of my previous videos, guys, I had the big harvest, the onion harvest of 2021 in this area right here. Remember the big onions? So can't forget these. But I'm going to actually put those tomatoes in here, and I think we have a truckload of mulch coming right now. I think I hear the truck coming. Happy days. It's always nice getting a truckload of mulch. Yeah, I think they're coming. But anyway, I'm just gonna plant, I think, like I said, I think there's like 6 plants, maybe 8 plants, I don't remember. Yeah, here comes the mulch, guys. Here comes a truckload.
show people what you got under.
Now I want you guys to realize that as I'm even just thinking about planting these, you got to keep in mind that I don't really have to weed anything. I don't have to do any preparation, you know, to plant these necessarily. All I got to do is go in and create a space and plug them in, and they're ready to go. So that's kind of one of the principles, or one of the kind of the ideas on Back to Eden gardening, is not having to weed, not having to really prep beds. It's a very simple type of gardening once it's established. I mean, it did take some work to kind of get everything laid out here initially, but as time goes on, you do less and less work. You know, later on, a few years down the road, this stuff will be like just black gold, and I won't have to worry about really what I'm planting or what's going to do good here, what's going to do there, you know, or good there. They'll all do very well in this type of soil, considering, you know, they are growing or able to grow in the zone that, you know, I'm actually growing in. So that's the only thing you got to really consider, is make sure you have the right growing zone, the right plants for the growing zone. But I want you guys to, we'll kind of zoom in here. I'll show you kind of what I'm dealing with here as far as what's underneath the surface, so you guys kind of see what I'm doing and how I plant tomatoes in a Back to Eden gardening, or in a garden. So, and then right in here, I'm actually planting right next to my potatoes. I've got red cabbage on my left here. That's actually doing pretty good. They're really just sprouting up now. Once I think one of my, I had said before, I think one of my issues when I first planted this area was I may not have been quite deep enough. I was planting in a medium that was mostly composted, broken down, but had just a little bit of chips in there. And I think those chips were still pulling out the nitrogen in that area around the roots, you know, of the plants. So once the plants actually had a root big enough, or threw it down deep enough to where they were kind of drawing in the soil, then all of a sudden the plants start popping up and they start thriving, they start doing pretty good. And I think almost, I mean, that's pretty much across the board. You know, I see that a lot in my beans. They were kind of doing poorly at first, and once they got some roots established and got down in there a little bit further into the soil, then everything started shaping up. All the cauliflower, the broccoli, same thing, the cabbage over here. But this stuff looks like really super nice. A little bit of bugs kind of ate in there here and there, but overall it's starting to develop a head in there now. But it's looking pretty good though. I can just tell that once they get a little bit of age to them, they're going to kind of pop out and get the roots down in the soil and take off. So, but for now, let's work on getting these tomatoes in here. There might be a few residual onions. Woo! Look at that big one. That's not too much of an onion. I just want to see if there's any onions left in here. There's a few. I'll probably take those in the house. Even though they're not very big, they actually taste really well. But there's another one. Here's one. Oh shoot, the 2021 onion harvest is getting better. It's really looking promising. Not really. Just joking around. Another one. Alright. Almost like the size of a shallot, but this could be a disaster. I don't know. We'll see. Because these plants may have been kind of root bound already. These things have been taken off so much. Ooh. I've got even the tomato roots are actually coming out the bottom of the container right here. So I know they've got a pretty good development in there. This is a nice container. Usually some of the cheaper containers will actually just slice down the side and open it up, but this is a nice one. I hate to throw stuff away or just kill it, but I was going to try and move it out.
Press it over here.
It's all right. I got it, I think. And this is just regular potting, so it does nothing special, but it's used to have pretty good root development on there. Now this is another thing that I'll point out when you're actually planting tomatoes. One of the better things to do is actually to take off these bottom branches, suckers, and the lateral branches I call them. But I'm actually going to take off all of these right here, and maybe I'll plant this fairly deep. Along here, I don't know if you can see this or not, there's little bumps actually on the stem of this tomato right here. Those are all like they're all just basically root nodes where roots will actually develop. And so I definitely like to plant, you know, up here about, you know, 7-8 inches more, because all this will actually root out, and that actually will supply, you know, the nutrients to the plant. It'll take off a lot faster if I do that. It'll not only be feeding off of these roots, but it'll very quickly shoot out roots from this area right here, and then it'll grow extremely fast. So set that there for now. I'm just gonna draw this back. Now, these are extremely large transplants. I mean, you normally wouldn't buy them quite that big, although I see some kind of late season ones at the nursery that people just haven't purchased, and they get a little bit out of control. But normally you aren't planting something quite this big. But and I think we'll be just fine here. These will take probably a couple days to a few days. It's actually been kind of cool. It hasn't been that warm, in the mid to upper 80s actually the last few days. So they're not going to have any extreme heat. They should just pull out of it, because usually when you do something like this, you'll have like a little bit of transplant shock, and they'll kind of slow down in growth. But I don't think it's going to really affect these too much. But again, you start looking at, I started talking about how every year this gets a little bit, you don't have to plant as deep in this type of medium. Every year you'll be planting shallower and shallower until at, you know, probably 3-4 years out, I'll be planting right in this stuff, because this will break down into just a regular soil type medium, and the plants will thrive in that alone. I won't need to necessarily go right down into the soil. So that's something I'm looking forward to, is to the point where I can say that I'm actually planting like right in this medium instead of going right into the soil. But down the road, I'm gonna move on and plant another one here. We got to keep moving along, and then I actually bring into it just a little bit of this mulch in here. I'll bring right up to the plant. This again is what's going to hold moisture around the plant. There was a piece of rock or something in there. You can definitely see the soil layers in there. That's actually just a straight up clay pretty much, but that's why I like to mix it just a little bit. This little guy. And to be honest with you, I don't even know what these are. I didn't keep track of them when I was actually trimming them off the parent plants. So technically, I'll just have to see what they produce. But oh Lord, there's a lot of them. Oh my gosh, there's a lot of onions in here. And we're done. Finished planting the tomatoes. I did water them a little bit, obviously. That will help them along. It's going to get a little sunny today, a little bit warm. So I thought, what the heck? I'll give them a little extra water. These tomato plants are really resilient, so they will come out of it. Even though they look a little droopy right now, they'll be just fine. And then I'll give you guys an update here in a week or two, show you what's happening with the plants here, let you know how they're doing. Got to pick up my onions yet. There actually was quite a few in the ground here, so I'll pick those up. I think Elizabeth wanted to make some lunch. I was going to grab some tomatoes and, or not tomatoes, but some beans and those onions, and then she's gonna make something with some pork. So we'll see what she can come up with. I'm kind of hungry, but that'll wrap it up for today. Thanks a lot, guys, appreciate it. Please like and subscribe and ring the bell, get notified things coming up. Let me see, I'm trying to think of what's going on here coming up. I gotta start the bathroom this next week here too, so we're gonna be doing a major remodel on the bathrooms, plural. We got to get a dumpster here. We're gonna be starting to tear down the upper restroom. That's gonna be kind of interesting for a lot of people. We're actually gonna do a full tear down, basically wall studs, all the plumbing, electrical, everything's going to be kind of reworked, so that'll be pretty interesting to see. start to finish. I'll go in there in a day or two here, and we'll actually do kind of a walkthrough initial, just so you can see what it looks like before we dive into that. But look at all the butterflies. Oh gosh, I got butterflies all over the place. And oh, I wanted to show you guys the tomatoes before I go here. These things are just loaded. I don't know if Elizabeth caught this, but I don't know if there's a good... And you see these things are just loaded. Even under the bottom here, it's just packed full. If I didn't, these are kind of supported a little bit. I kind of weaved them through here, this panel a little bit coming up, but if it wasn't for the panel, they would just flop right over, because these are very heavy. If you look under here, these are just loaded with tomatoes, doing really well. Under here, oh, I do have some of these pineapple tomatoes coming too. Those are going to be really interesting. I believe they'll be very large, and I think yellow for the most part, yellowish orange. But they're going to be pretty interesting to see once they get a little bit bigger. See how they taste. Oh, I did some pruning in here yesterday in these tomatoes. I can see some of the actual greens laying on the ground there, but I went on the underside and trimmed a lot up. So and that's something I talk about all the time, is just trying to keep those leaves not so thick to the point where it closes off the air and a little bit of the sun. I want to kind of open it up a little bit, especially to some of those tomatoes, and let them get a little sun. That'll help them out. So thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate you stopping by today and checking out this video. We got a lot to come, so stay tuned. Have a great day. Bye-bye.